computer. I have to hit another button. Okay. Hi, it's Clare Kumar, Productivity Catalyst from Toronto. And I'm here today with the fabulous, inspiring Leigh Mitchell of Women in Biz Network. She's created over the past 10 years a network across Canada of over 35,000 professionals, people that are entrepreneurs, working for companies and working for themselves, and brought an incredible community together. And I really wanted to talk to Leigh today to get her perspective on what it is like to be working from home, not only her own perspective, but that of her community. So welcome, Leigh. It's wonderful to be talking with you. We're also kind of neighbors, pretty close together. So Leigh's a personal friend as well, and I'm really happy to be spending some time with her. So yeah, so welcome, Leigh.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what has the experience been like for the past few weeks? Now we're the third week in April. What's the past few weeks been like for you as you integrate this work and life experience?
Well, it's really required a lot of mindfulness and a lot of really just trying to go with the flow in terms of the family structure, but also have a relative amount of structure. And it's funny for me because I have been working from home for years, and but I've never really worked from home with other people in the house per se, except for when my children were really young, and I thought I had left that behind. So it's a weird feeling. I think that we've grown in this, both as people and also just really having processes to get through this challenging time. So I would say it's brought our family together to work better as a team. So some of the things that we've done to bring structure to be able to work from home is we've had family meetings each week. And so in the first few weeks, it was really establishing a schedule and learning how to stick to it, but also having some flexibility there. So in the early stages of that, it was like working out. It was like working out that system of what works for everybody and making sure that everybody had a say in it, right? So my husband, my two kids, and learning to, well, for me, I felt like I was putting everybody first in the beginning. And I think now, how many weeks into this that we are, I feel now I'm starting to be able to get some work done. I think at first it was all about getting everybody settled, including my husband in his, which was my office, and really helping him to get it set up to work for him because he works for a company. And now I'm feeling pretty good about me being able to get work done. The kids are doing quite well. So it's really been a work in progress.
100%. I want to echo a couple of things that you said there. Number one, you created a weekly meeting. And there's a lot of people I meet that kind of resist structure. And in the first couple of weeks, it kind of felt like, oh, we're on vacation, we're on this. And it started in Ontario with March break, not everywhere, but it kind of coincided, the shutdown, with, oh, we're supposed to be on holiday anyway. So it allowed a little bit of catching our breath. Yeah. And then we find if we don't have any structure, we kind of flounder. So while there's a resistance to structure for a lot of people, there is a lot of comfort in figuring out what amount of structure is that fortification or foundation that keeps the communication happening, so that you can move together really fluidly and together, and taking into account everybody's interests. So that's the second thing I wanted to really celebrate in what you said is you're co-creating that with your team. I call it home team, right? We like to have a home team advantage here, and that's through some of the structure and communication. So yeah, it's wonderful that you landed on that, and a weekly meeting is what keeps you guys, operating as a team. So
yeah, and there's been some growing pains with those meetings. In the early stages, they went on forever. And for someone like myself who is an entrepreneurial mindset. Having that structure has been a bit of a challenge for me because I'm not used to having a lot of meetings, and meetings do sometimes feel a bit like restrictive in being flexible and spontaneous. And that's something that I really love. But my husband really insisted on them, and I actually owe it to him. And it's funny. I always saw me as being the one that's structured and needs to have a system in place, and was always sharing the latest data on, how family dynamics work best.
Yeah.
But when this all happened, I found that my anxiety levels went way up. And so, there's flight, fright, and freeze, right? Yeah. And so for me, I was like, flight. I'm like, I need to get out of here. So one of the family meetings, I totally admit, I gave over to my husband, and I didn't participate in it because there was a lot of arguments in the first number of family meetings that we had. Yeah. But eventually we got into a good flow with them. We realized what might be triggering, and tried to keep it to 3 things. Like, what are 3 things that we need to talk about, and anything more we have to table. We've also been using our family dinners to talk a bit more about some of the things that we didn't get to in the family meeting, right? And just doing that sort of check-in. We were laughing a couple of days ago. We actually had the airing of the grievances at the dinner table where we sort of went around and said, like, what are some things that we're finding frustrating with each other? And I don't know if we really got to solutions, but I think it felt good just to get some things off our chest. I think after
and to be heard, potentially. That was to be heard, right? And
everybody needed to be heard.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, because so we, even within the structure of the weekly meeting, they need to evolve to a structure of the meeting to keep everybody safe, feeling psychologically safe in that, and to set some boundaries to it. And every good meeting has an agenda. There's some, what I like about this period is there's some things that I can draw on from 20 years of studying productivity that really play here. And that said, what I also like in what you said is, we have to be able to, this is a crisis period, and we are all overwhelmed from time to time with, I call it waves of, whether it's grief or anger or overwhelm or frustration. There's a lot of things, and we don't know what the triggers are. There's a lot of what I call micro losses happening, and we might experience one of those, or your child might experience one of those, or your partner might, and all of a sudden we're into this emotion. There has to be room for the emotion. That we can feel it and express it. If we suppress it all, then we're going to be driving it into our bodies, and then all kinds of crazy things can happen. So we want to be able to make room in this time for that expression of emotion, and thinking about how the meeting works, and having a table. And then I loved what you said about having this time where you're listening to each other. And solving problems might be at another time, but let's hear, and let's have everybody be heard, which is really powerful. So my gosh, so much great stuff in there. And I love what you're evolving to together. So kudos to you for finding a path to making this work. And the great thing that I love in what you did is you have to negotiate, and you have to make different decisions based on new priorities. So you said your husband works for a company, and now he's in your old office, and you're in another room, which looks fabulous, by the way. So it's interesting as we look at our spaces and figure out what are we going to do to make them work. And so coming together from that place of, we're a team, and how do we have a collective goal that we're trying to meet? How do we work together to get there? That keeps our vision aligned, and then we work together to make compromises and flex. And so that's super important.
Yeah, the other thing my husband has done as well with myself is we kind of make a point of going out for walks, just the two of us. We have kids that are old enough that we can do like an hour walk with each other, and that sort of, so we can take on some of the challenges that we need to work out between the two of us in order to get to the so really focusing on how we can work together better as a couple, and then how we can work better together as a family. So having those private conversations to lead to more productive times, or things where we're like kind of stumped. you know?
Yeah. It's and things you might want to only express in an adult kind of environment as
Exactly.
well. So, yeah,
Mhm.
kudos to you. Do you think that this walking meetings, if you will, this
Mhm.
walking connection would be something you'll continue after this period of time?
Oh
Or
yeah,
yeah,
definitely. We had been doing them prior to all of this.
mm,
Whenever we kind of just we call them date walks, like essentially,
yeah.
with restaurants closed down, it sort of went to going for walks together, just the two of us to reconnect and also, take on challenges. Although even today we went out, just my husband and I went out on our walk, and I made a joke. I said, okay, on sunny days we don't talk about anything triggering. Cloudy days we take on the things that are a bit more challenging
Oh,
because I
that's
don't
so
want to wreck the
interesting.
sunny day.
Right? It's interesting because we're in Toronto and spring is really just emerging. I mean, the grass has just greened up in the past week or so. We've got, I don't know, the hyacinths are out, daffodils are out. So we've got this sense of, at least when I'm walking, which is daily as well, this opportunity to notice. And you mentioned mindfulness before. It's one I don't often walk. Sometimes I walk with something in my ear, some audiobooks that I'm listening to, but often I walk with just a sense of really fostering that connection to nature and noticing all of the different plants that are emerging, the bird song that's coming. I'm lucky enough to live on the lake, so however the light's bouncing off the water that day, it's like
Mhm.
slowing down and making some time. That connection to nature is very healing, I find. So, and walking too. So yeah, some anchoring things there. So
And
yeah,
keeping a curious mindset too. I think that's really important as well.
yes.
When you can stay curious, it allows us to not get into a judging state of mind, which can really take over with all of this stuff going on.
Yeah. I think you're brave to tackle the negative things on a cloudy day. That's incredibly brave. So kudos to you for
No one's ruining my sunny day, Claire.
right.
It's
That's
all
good.
right.
Don't rain on my
Yeah,
parade.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That is awesome. I want to shift now to, because you're so connected to this rich community that you've
Mhm.
built over 10 years. What are you hearing from people that are working for a company and their work has needed to continue? They've needed to stay productive.
Mhm.
What are you hearing from people that need to make, getting things done still be something that they think about in their day when it's been really, really hard, sometimes, to bring that cognitive thinking to our days?
Mhm. Yeah, that's well, I think, it- it's dependent on who the audience is. So for example, my entrepreneurial community at first is like, okay, trying to figure out the tax credits, right?
Yeah,
The funding for entrepreneurs.
yeah.
In the beginning, I think people having a sense of, if their business was completely interrupted and they could no longer make their revenue the way they did in the past, and they've
Mhm.
had to slightly pivot, finding out whether or not the funding, they could access that funding. And they've since changed it that entrepreneurs that are making under $1,000 can still access that funding. I think there was a lot of uncertainty and confusion
Sure.
for entrepreneurs uh, who were, trying to decide what to do.
Yes. The
And then,
question
yeah,
of is there anything for me was what was an early question, and what do I do with it? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, in the professional community, we had people that were dealing with, job losses or being laid off, and, figuring out what my next steps are going to be. And am I going to be okay? Am I going to be able to survive this? Or, what does this mean to me in the context of my next steps, and figuring out what made sense. And then obviously the third uh, type of community member would be those that are professional, continue, like that have jobs that are continuing to work, but in a totally different light, right? So they're,
Mhm.
maybe they're working from home, um, and they're trying to figure out how to do that, right? So,
Yeah.
and I think that's been a huge learning curve for everybody. And what I'm finding people are saying is just they're exhausted.
Mm.
There's that role exhaustion,
Yeah.
especially if they have families and they're trying to figure out the online schooling.
Oh, yes.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yes.
just being able to get through the day, more meetings, because, people aren't in an office together, so they're figuring out that technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's,
Yeah, there's no easy reality is what I've
yeah,
observed. There's
yeah.
no easy reality, whether you're someone who lives alone and you're just tired of being by yourself, which can be very hard because it used to be fine because you go out and get the interaction that you were looking for, or whether you're someone at home with 6 kids and you had a full plate. So there's no easy reality. And I think all of anything is really difficult. And the stresses are different, but there's, to your point, there's been stresses everywhere. And
Mhm.
so what I'm really interested in is the discussion that people are having with their teams that you're expected to continue to produce with, and where's compassion and how is that showing up from a leadership perspective, and
Mhm.
how is that showing up between corporations and their employees so that we
Mhm.
can flex with this emotion that we have to absorb and our natural desire to be a contributing person and accomplish things, but also all of these other things that we have to manage to be able to show up. So
Mhm.
do you have any thoughts on that, or have you heard anything about leadership compassion and what role that plays in keeping this moving forward, but perhaps at a different pace than it normally would be? I'm not sure.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I've worked from home for a long time, and I've worked in different contracts, and I've experienced different levels of trust. And
Mm,
really for me, it comes back to your core values and making sure that they're in alignment with whoever you're working with, right? Whether it be other, for me, other members, um, other organizations that I might have a partnership with. For those that are in, work for someone, feeling that they have some level of control over their situation, I think is important. And yeah, leadership, it's just the little things. Like, for example, my husband's work, they have healthy snacks at their office. And so they sent out a healthy snack package to each
oh,
employee. And, just checking in, showing that compassion, like, I could just speak to my husband's organization. Well, they had masks, so they donated a ton of masks to first responders, but they saved some for their employees. So employees were able to take a few masks, and so that's that's a little level of compassion. So micro compassion is
yeah.
wonderful, right?
It
So
is wonderful. I guess one of the things for 20, 25 years I've been thinking about is how do we have greater respect for humanity in the workplace,
mhm.
and lobbied for it all through my corporate career. And then now when I speak about things, that's what I'm really excited about. So I think one of the wonderful opportunities in this challenging time is that we have an opportunity to see each other as humans. We talk about, you're supposed to bring your whole self to work. Well, your
Mhm.
whole work just came home. So now there's this, what, we're seeing people in their home environment. There's no way we can't see someone as a human being now because of this shift to working from home. And so what I'm hoping with that is even those leaders who had a bias to say, what, I don't think we can be really productive. I don't think we can get things done unless we're in the office and your butt is in your chair, or you're with your team. I'm hoping for an openness now and an experience. And I think that's really what my mission is for this time, is to support people to have as good an experience as they can in this,
Mhm.
so that out of it, we can have more people enabled to successfully work from home. Because
Mhm.
from my experience, that was as a parent of especially small children when I left the corporate world, solely due to the fact I wasn't permitted to keep working from home part-time when my job was actually 90% on the phone. So it was a real challenge for me. I thought, wow, for moms or dads, people that are caring for kids or elders, whatever the challenges, or even if you're someone who just wants a different kind of work-life integration, the ability to work from home is a really powerful key to unlock fulfillment in life. Your productivity stays up, your satisfaction and the fullness of life that you're able to manage and experience is really one you can be proud of. So I'm hoping that's going to be an outcome as we go through this, and that more leaders will start to say, oh, actually we did it. And whew, I see how it can work. I'm a little bit afraid that there might be people struggling, and that's kind of why I'm setting up the calls to have with people, and some online programs and so on, is to just make sure there's a foundation of support so people can move through this with the skills that will help them be successful.
Yeah, I think we also have to really focus on vulnerable leadership, right? So really tapping into maybe what our unconscious biases are, because we all have them, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so really sort of every day writing those out and being mindful of them, so that you admit them to yourself, and then hopefully you can come up with strategies that will allow you to give your team what they need. And if you have some unconscious biases that working from home doesn't work, well, really getting curious about, well, why is that? And how can we get around this, or how can I as a leader get around this first
Yeah.
and foremost?
Yeah.
And then really opening up the conversation, like maybe the leader has to say, like, I admit that I have some biases around this, and I'm really trying to challenge myself, and I could really use your help in figuring this out so that we can do this together.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of blind spots where we don't even realize we have it.
Yeah.
So to tune into when when you're resisting something is the
Mm-hmm.
first clue that, oh, there's something to look at. Where does that resistance, that defensiveness, that feeling of stress or something, when that comes up for you, the question is, what's that about? Notice it. And then maybe ask yourself. So I wrote on my blog just last week, I posted something just to get at this issue with a few coaching questions for leaders right around this concept of, are you someone who never thought working from home was a good idea? Well, here's some questions to think through that might uncover where that came from. Could it be that, it's like, when we used to walk 3 miles through snow to get to school. So therefore I think you should walk 3 miles through snow to get to school. So I worked in the office, therefore you should come to the office. Where are the beliefs coming from, and are they still valid? And so, yeah, that curious mindset is everything to get through this. Yeah. So it's the viralities are very different, and I think that curious mindset is going to hold everybody in a better place as we navigate this. Yeah. Thank you for your thoughts, and hearing from a reflection of what's going on out there across the country and beyond in these, and as we figure out and navigate through this. Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of my passion to talk about a lot of these subjects and these challenges, and just be honest, right? I
Yeah.
think just that's the starting point, is just to be honest. And once we're honest, and then we can get to a place that hopefully solves more problems when we just open up and figure things out. Everything's figure outable, so
Exactly. So if people are interested in Women in Biz Network, where would they go to find you and this wonderful
Oh,
community
yeah.
you've built?
Yeah, thank you. So we're on all the social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and online on our website at womeninbiznetwork.com. And yeah, people can access free resources there and mentorship opportunities. So I encourage people that are feeling challenged and want to feel less alone to check us out.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful community. I've been part of it for, I can't even count the years now. It's a really wonderful place to be. And thank you for joining me today and sharing some of your insights. Thanks so
Thanks. And
much, Leigh.
thank you. I just want to say to you too that I've just always been so impressed with what you've brought to your community and to mine, just this ability to see things through, a very honest lens around some of our productivity challenges, as well as our health and well-being. So thank you so much. You're always giving to our community, and you're a valued member of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leigh. All right. Have a great day. It's sunny out there. So enjoy
Yes.
your walk with no raining on that parade today.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks.